good morning, everybody. Delighted that so many of you have managed to take the time out and join us today. We're really excited to announce the launch of our next generation tracking system for secondary schools. So I'll have a bit of a run through of the agenda. I'll do a bit of an introduction, talk about the system, the setup, the journey we've been on developing this system. I think many of you will know over time we've been asked by schools, we love self-evaluation, but we want to do it with pupils that are currently in school, currently in year 7 through to 11, and we want to monitor and track their performance before they actually get to the end of the key stage. And that now becomes a reality from today when you can start using the system. I'll then hand over to Heidi, who's going to do a live demo of the system, looking at how we map curriculums. And what you'll see is FFT have done a huge amount to map that curriculum for you. But things like adding QAN codes and so on. Heidi will run through that, give us a demo, and start looking at some of our reports. We'll then look at a product roadmap. It's the launch today, but there's so many things planned, currently in development, and things that we'll be introducing over the coming months that we'll talk about. And then what do we do next? We've been here today. We've heard there's a launch. We've heard of products live. What can we do now and get started with it with our current year 11 cohorts? So it's here, as I say, it's live today. You'll be able to log in, you'll be able to get into the system and have a play about, start uploading some data. But it's monitoring, it's mapping, and it's tracking that achievement throughout a pupil's time, a cohort's time, a subject teaching group's time, within an academic year, throughout a whole key stage within Aspire now available. Benchmark it live with instant analysis. So upload your data to us, generate some headlines, and instantly see your data, as you can see there on the screenshot, alongside full DFE nationals with the data sets that we received from the DFE. So how would that look against the 2023 national data sets? But also, what about the FFT estimates? Are pupils on track? Are they in line with their FFT estimates? Are they above? Are they below their FFT estimates? And there's some really smart functionality in there, things like sorting, that you can very quickly see the pupils that are more above their estimates or below their estimates. Just quickly get to that analysis. And knowing then if pupils are on track. As I say, if you can see those pupils, you can see where they are, you can see their estimates, you can see the current performance of those pupils, and you can monitor that and see what progress pupils are making over time. But not only looking at individual pupils. Obviously, we can look at pupils, we can look at their progress, we can look at their attainment, but we can look at pupil groups, the context pupil groups that we pull through from the management information system, the subject teaching groups, the sets that pupils are in. And you can analyze that within the new reports that we've gone live with yesterday. It's been designed and developed with FFT school and MAC colleagues. We've spoken to lots of colleagues. We continue to speak to colleagues. We've developed it with a group of pilot schools, initially a group of 4 schools, then we've expanded that out. And we've been working really closely with them as we continue to develop the system. And that will continue, regular catch-ups, regular feedback. And we want you as customers to be feeding into this journey with us, telling us what things you want to see next and helping us with that roadmap as we develop the system for you. It's updated fortnightly. So you'll remember, obviously, in a self-evaluation world, we'd have amended data sets, we'd have unamended data sets, but this will be releasing fortnightly. New reports, new functionality, and I'll talk a bit more when we get to the roadmap, but updated, regular updates to this system for you. An out-of-the-box mapped curriculum. No need to import, no need to export from the management information system. We've worked really hard to pull this information through. So 95–96% of your curriculum is already mapped and ready to go in an out-of-the-box fashion. So some of the key features and the benefits of the system, as I said, fully connected to your school's MIS. So when anything changes in your MIS, whether that be a pupil's FSM status, SEN status, whether they change a subject teaching group, all of that comes through to us automatically. There's no need for you to go to any trouble to update things, import things, export things. As I've said, easy to use. The curriculum set up, and then you can manage your in-school assessments, downloading a template, add in the results, which we'll look at in more detail, uploading it into the system, and then instantly generating some headline information, not only for headline indicators, but also subject performance as well. And then track and monitor that student progress throughout key stages 3, 4, and 5. There are new reports, headline reports, that will monitor not only attainment, but value-added progress, not just value-added progress in terms of progress 8 across overall and the different buckets. We'll be looking at subject value-added as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And it's looking at your in-school assessment data, whether that's termly, whether that's twice termly, whether it's twice a year. You'll be able to feed in data as and when you're completing these assessments in your school. And benchmark and compare that school attainment and that progress, that value added, across a range of different comparators. We use the full DFE 2023 national data sets that we have. So you can compare and say, if this is performance right now, like our predicted grades for this year, how would that sit in terms of the 2023 national data sets? How would our attainment look? And where would we sit in terms of value-added progress? Things like progress 8 and so on. 2024 FFT national performance. So results day coming up 22nd of August. Soon as schools, and we get around 1,700, 1,800 schools each year that use our early results service. This is the way you'll submit that data to us, and you'll instantly get analysis straight away this year with 2023 data. And then as soon as we hit a threshold of schools, whether that's day 1 or day 2, schools submitting their 2024 data sets, we'll release our 2024 national data sets for attainment and our coefficients that we'll calculate based on all the schools that submit data to us. So get a view of what your 2024 data looks like alongside all of the schools that are submitting data to FFT. FFT estimates. So straight away, you can look and say, how does that compare to our FFT 50, 20, or 5? And that can vary to different subjects. What does it look like for overall performance? And when we talk about FFT estimates, obviously we've got estimates on the basis of Key Stage 2 data, but we've got 2 cohorts coming up now with missing Key Stage 2 data. You'll all know we've worked really closely with our partners over at GL Assessment, and we use Cat 4 data, so that will be coming in. So you can compare performance to the Cat 4 estimates that we've created for Key Stage 4. Really importantly, and schools have really supported this, percentile ranks and statistical significance, and you'll see this in action. But where would we sit with that performance? Would be in the top 10% of those national data sets that we've got and the 2024 data sets when we calculate it. Are we in the top 10? Are we in the bottom 10? Are we significantly above? Are we significantly below? Or are we broadly in line with the national picture? And all of this information and reporting is available today. Curriculum mapping, I've talked about curriculum mapping, but we did work really hard alongside schools and MAC colleagues so we could refine this so it was out of the box. So we've automatically synced all your subject teaching groups directly from your MIS into our system, and we've mapped them to the qualifications. And it's available then for you to start adding in some QUAN codes, which is what the data managers can do. Check pupils are in each teaching group. So when you're looking at the subject teaching groups, and we'll see this, you're able to see the pupil membership in each of those teaching groups. If that pupil membership changes, then overnight we bring that information through the very next day. So we respond and we bring it through automatically for you. You can add and remove any mapped or unmapped teaching groups. If for any reason we couldn't map a teaching group, we didn't have enough information, those teaching groups are still there, and you can add those teaching groups in to the correct qualifications, and then you're ready to start analysing by those teaching groups as well and adding data for those teaching groups. And quickly and easily select the QUAN codes. We've already attached the relevant QUAN codes to the qualifications within the system. You can just use a drop down and select the awarding body that you're using for each of your qualifications, and that will come through ready for you to start uploading your data for those separate QUAN codes. Obviously, the QUAN codes are really important when it comes to vocational subjects with the different grading schemas for different awarding bodies. And we are going to link your subject teaching groups to estimates in the new academic year. So when you start looking at your analysis of your estimates and your aggregated estimates, it'll be on the basis of the pupils that are taking those subjects. Not every pupil for every subject. It'll be based on the pupils that are taking those subjects. So your aggregates will be accurate. And again, that will be done for you. And you can refine that by adding in some of these unmapped teaching groups if there were some that were unable to map. And obviously you can move some teaching groups as well. There is a circumstance that I'll mention now where we've been working with schools where they have pupils that aren't actually in subject teaching groups, but they are taking a qualification within the school, and you are able to add that in as well. You can add a QAN code, even if there isn't a subject teaching group, and then you can add some results, whether it's one pupil, two pupils, however many pupils, and then you can analyze that as well. Typical examples we've had of sort of home speaking pupils and adding in their data sets so they can monitor that as well. Template download and upload. So once everything's mapped, once you've added in all of your QAN codes, right now for year 11 pupils, you can start using the system. You can download the template and you'll see that it's got all of that mapped information in there. It's got all the qualifications that you've mapped. It's got the QAN codes attached to those. And we've unlocked the cells. We've listened and we've unlocked the cells. So we know you're very keen to use some of the Excel functions like VLOOKUPs to start pulling through data that you hold in different areas. So we've made that available for you as well. You can upload the file. Once you upload that file, we give you some feedback. We tell you how many results you've given us for each of the subjects. You can refine that and say, well, just show me the vocational or just show me the GCSEs. And you can then look and get a quick sense check of the results that you've added to the spreadsheet, just to check, does that look right? Are we expecting 150 results for maths or 80 for geography? It just gives you that very quick sense check. And then immediately, once you're happy, you've uploaded everything, immediately generate and view a range of headline indicators, including things like progress 8 overall, the separate buckets, the same for attainment 8, threshold measures, English and maths, grade 4 and above, grade 5 and above. And I'm sure Heidi will show you the other indicators that you can look at. What are schools saying? So as I say, we've had pilot schools working with us for some time now. They've been looking at the system, they've been feeding back, they've been helping us refine it, and that will continue. But some of the comments, every school needs this. It's so powerful, was one of the comments from one of our pilot schools. Another comment, I like the clear comparisons to nationals and the ranks. It's really simple to use, and it gives a good picture of where every subject is. I'm going to hand over to Heidi now, who's going to do a live demo of the system.
Right, I'm now going to share my data. This is our demo system. Craig, can you just give me a quick thumbs up if you can see the screen scroll up and down? Super. So when you log in today, as of yesterday evening, you log in, you're the data manager, you will see something on the top right-hand side, this new curriculum mapping tile. Previous to that, you had your target setting and your benchmarking tile. What this aims to show schools is how much of your curriculum we've already mapped for you. You'll be aware we've used your data exchange connection between Aspire and your management information system to pull through your teaching groups already. And we've been doing that for a number of months and years. What we're also able to do then is to take those teaching groups and match them and map them to particular subjects. And this is where you might log in and find a figure like 95% of your groups are already mapped. And that's the kind of figure we're looking at for most schools. There will be some groups where we're not able to map them. Teaching groups might have IT in the name, and we're not quite sure whether that's IT, information technology, or IT Italian. And that's where you might have to go and do a little bit of mapping. And I'll show you how to do that now. So again, this is for data managers, but then another route of getting into this is to use your administration option in Data Manager. You'll have a tab to get into curriculum mapping. I'm just going to use this quick link up here on the top right. This is the same page you'd get into in Data Manager. Here's the curriculum area. And so let's go. This has already been mapped. We've got some unmapped subjects. We'll quickly go through this. You see all your year groups at Key Stage 4. I am just going to focus on Year 11 this morning. A lot of the session, a lot of the launch series is about what you can do right now with your Year 11 data, and also in preparation for that Key Stage 4 results day next month. Like with all SPI systems, you've got a range of tick boxes and options, but I'll just quickly scroll down this screen to show you what some of this looks like. We've mapped the teaching groups for business studies. There's a green next to the Q code, and I'll show you what that means in a moment. But if you wanted to see all the subject groups available to you, you can click that all option. And then this opens out every single subject we've got in the system at the moment. I'm going to go with, let's untick and go for Year 11. And let's say I'm one of those students that Craig spoke about, and I want to put in a Quan code where we don't have a teaching group. So let me pick up Chinese. So there's no teaching group for Chinese. We haven't mapped me over. I'm the only student in that teaching group. And if you did try to add a teaching group, this is how we would add a group. You would get a list of those groups that aren't mapped, and you'd pick from the list and then add that to the group. I'll just cancel that one. What I want to do here is to build on Craig's example of those native speakers, and I want to add a Quan code. Remember, I'm not in a teaching group, that's fine, but I will have an examination result for Chinese. But if I select the Quan code option, you will see we've picked up 2 Quan codes for you. Now we've taken all the Quan codes and all codes that will be included in the Key Stage 4 performance tables. So we might have a question about, what about vocational estimates, where you might not have an FFT estimate for them? How do we make sure they're included in your analysis? Pick up the Quan code. I'm going to start at the bottom and pick up 2105, which is spoken Mandarin. But I'm going to go for that thing where I can speak Mandarin and Cantonese. So that's going to be my Quan code, and I can set that. I'm going to cancel this now, but that's how easy it is to set the Quan code. Remember, there's no teaching group attached to the subject, but you can attach Quan code. For the other subjects, if I just pick up business studies, this is where we've got the teaching group mapped to the Quan code. So I'll open up the green Quan code. The school in this demo system's already mapped it, but you've got the other options available. If you wanted to add or remove teaching groups, you can do so through these 2 blue buttons here. So adding, if I've got any unmapped groups, I can pick that up from the list. And if I want to remove, it's just simply click on that and remove the group. So again, there'll be a full training video on this available, data managers. This is just a quick overview of one of the very important parts that you will need to do in order to use the tracking tool. Okay, so coming back now to the other area of the system that's new is on the side navigation bar. You'll notice now for all secondary schools, there's a secondary pupil tracking option. You've got subjects, you've got headlines. I'm also going to go to the bottom because we're thinking about putting data in advance. And under the administration section, we've got my assessments. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this because this is important, because we need to get the data into Aspire in order to generate that almost instantaneous analysis for you. We've popped into every single secondary school a number of shells or a number of templates that you can start to use to look at some tracking data. Reminder again, this is currently for Year 11s, but as we grow the system, this is where you'll see your other year group options, be able to pick your other key stages, and of course you can start to narrow down your terminal options, and as we move through the academic years, you'll have other options available. We'll come back to reports. I know some have already spotted that, but in terms of what we're looking to do, let's start off talking about the predicted grade service. This is now open. I'm sure Craig's already spoken about it. It'll be on a subsequent slide as part of this presentation, but schools can now map the curriculum, set up the Quan codes, and start putting in the predicted grades for the current year 11 cohort. To do that, I'm going to click on that option, and you've got a download template option first. So we've mapped 25 subjects in this demo system, and we've mapped 3 vocational subjects. You've got separate spreadsheets to download, and I'll share with you what one of those will look like in a moment. In terms of then downloading that spreadsheet, it's a very simple click the download button, save that to an area, and then if I can now share the spreadsheet, you should see momentarily an Excel file. And as with our Aspire files, we've got some pupil data. This is training data again. And what we're asking schools to do is populate these columns, either using a drop down. So this is a GCSE file. We've got the 1 to 9 grades, or as Craig has already mentioned, worth showing again, being able to use a VLOOKUP formula, which I know many data managers like to do using their own predicted grade spreadsheet. Pop that data in there, you've got the student's UPN to match with, and then save that spreadsheet. I'm going to pop back over into my training system, and then this is now where we need to upload the data. Super simple, upload the spreadsheet, choose your file, and then it will take the file in, and you'll start seeing some summary analysis just to make sure you've got the right number of students with the right number of subjects in the cohort. My creative iMedia vocational subjects is 0 because I've not uploaded the data for that particular subject, but for the other 36 demo students I've got in my file, one we prepared earlier, you can see everybody has a result. This is a bit of a sense check. If I'm suddenly seeing business studies, I've got no results in there, but I know I've got 36 children, then that's where I'll go back to my file, manage the file, and then re-upload it again. The best bit about this, once it's all in, is you just hit that regenerate button and it will go and calculate the analysis reports on the fly. And we've got all the headline figures and some subject information generated for you. And then once you are done, I'll show you a few more things at the top as well. There's that drop-down mixer of which you can manage your other import files in this area. Once you're done uploading your data, managing your data, you can go straight into the report section, either through this top right-hand side quick link, or using that new option here of looking at secondary pupil tracking and going into your subjects and headlines. I'm going to use that quick link, and that will take me straight into the generated report. I've got those options as well to flick between different year groups, different assessments, and we'll talk about these 2 buttons in a moment. But just on the right, you'll notice we've already brought in those filtering options. I'll use a few of those in a moment during my demonstration. I've also got here a little cogwheel for more administration. If I need to manage this assessment again and go back into that download upload area, there's a quick link here. I've got that quick link of all assessments, which will take me to those 5 shells as I described them. So there's various ways of getting into parts of this tracking tool. This defaults to the first subject I've got on my list. I've got 25 subjects. I'll stay with art and design for now, but you can also switch between the different qualifications. I've also got my mapped teaching groups. So already we're pulling through data from your management information system, pulling it through into Curriculum Mapper. And if you've mapped that QAN code, then this is where this will become a lot more valuable to you in terms of data insight. We're seeing on the screen already a very simple analysis report, but has a huge impact. We have already got for this assessment for art and design, for my predicted grades in the summer, an average point score. My grade 4 or higher percentage, my grade 5 or high, my grade 7 or high percentages. I've got my FFT 50 estimate. I can also click this up to FFT 20, if that's your chosen level of challenge, also FFT 5, all instantaneous and straight away will recalculate live. When you're looking at that FFT 50 estimate, we've got that difference column as well. So you can start to see whether there are any trends you need to have to think about or any deep dives into the data at this point. I'm just going to zoom around the screen a little bit more now. Looking at comparing estimates, I'm sure there's already a question in our Q&A channel about what about comparing against something else. So let me show you what you can see at the moment. There are two options open. I'm going to show you the assessment only view. It defaults to the Key Stage 2 estimate view. Craig will talk a little bit more about the roadmap in terms of looking at comparing your data to school targets and CAT estimates. So I'll leave that for his part of the presentation. But I can here just click on Show Assessments Only, and this will show me just this assessment column. Why is that important? Well, if I go back to Key Stage 2 estimates, there could be youngsters who do not have prior attainment, which means we are not able to take that Key Stage 2 prior attainment and generate a benchmark estimate. How do you know whether how many children are included, how many students are included in the attainment, how many included in the progress calculation? There's a very handy click tool here, which will tell you. Now, for the demonstration system, everybody's got prior attainment. Okay, so just one more for those at the back. We've got the attainment only view, and you can choose to switch back and look at different FFT options. Same for just switching between different subjects. I won't do the whole lot again, because next thing I want to do is go and show you the data that's behind all this. There is a pupil list option. So let's look at those 36 students in a bit more detail. I've got now all my 36 pupils. You can sort. We've got prior attainment bands. We've got a bit of context information which comes from your MIS information system. We've got this current assessment, so some dummy data we've put in, and I can do things like I can sort the columns by I want to look at those who have been awarded grade 9 in my predicted grades. I can do it the other way around. I can take it back to the default. I've got my FFT estimates and I've got that difference column. That difference column uses color highlights to show you the following. If it is green, then that's where we are showing that the youngsters' data that you've inputted is 1 grade or more, 1 grade or higher than the FFT estimate you're looking at. If it's red, then it's the other way around. It's where that difference is 1 or more grades. Obviously, if we've got anything just a smidge below the FFT estimate, then we'll just leave that as a slightly lighter shade of grey. But here you're already able to see those differences. I'm just going to do a quick sort on those as well. I also like the ability to look for individual students. So I've got 3 students here with HE in their name. I can also, as you will expect, be able to do things like apply multiple filters. So I'll do boys who are born in the autumn term, and we've got 3 of those students return. So I'm just going to clear all of that. That's the subject report that's available to you now. That's in Aspire, but in order to get that, you need to map your curriculum, you need to add those additional teaching groups, map your QAM codes, and put your data in. What about the headline analysis? I've just been looking at the subject report. Let's switch to the headline report. So all I've done is come up to the top and click on that button there. The screen looks very similar, identical in fact to the previous screen. I've got all these options available to me at the top, but this time I'm looking specifically at those headline indicators we've calculated. Just by pressing that generate button, calculated on the fly, calculated live, I've got already overall attainment 8, I've got the different buckets, I've got progress 8 figures, I've got English and maths combined, and I've got the proportion of students who have got 5 or more GCSE grades at grades 7, 8 or 9. There's that assessment column, the school data you've put in. There's that key stage for 2023 DFE data that Craig spoke about earlier. That's the full national pupil data set. We will, of course, as soon as we hit that threshold, when you send your data in, as soon as the number of schools sending in their key stage 4 data hits a particular threshold, we will have available the 2024 FFT national figure. That will then become an option you can just switch between. But if you put in your predicted grades data today, you'll be able to see how your current year 11 cohort compares to last year's data, but not just the overall numbers. We've put in rankings. So if I look at my attainment 8 figure on screen, I can take that 5.0, compare it to the national average for last year, and come up with a ranking figure. We've got that FFT estimate. We've got that difference column for you. We've also got statistical significance calculated live. This is very, very exciting for us. This is part of launching this system today and being able to bring that to you, because that's not something we've been able to do in Aspire before. Live calculation of statistical significance. As you will expect, there's also a pupil list which sits behind this. So I'm just going to head over to that. It looks very similar to the report we've seen before at subject level, but there's a lot more information, a lot more detail here when it comes to assessments. Every single student in that file will have a row. I'll leave this on the 2023 DFE comparison at the moment, but we've got all of those indicators available for individual students, including some of these indicators to show whether they've achieved that threshold, the 4+ English and maths, the 5+, but also your EBAC average point score as well. So get those QAM codes in, map those teaching groups, get your data in the system, start having to play around with this and looking at that data now.
The only thing to add is that you've seen ranks, you've seen significance, and you've seen those in the headline reports. I talked about fortnightly releases. Over the next fortnight, that'll be available for subject analysis as well. So you'll get the nationals. You'll also get a value-added progress figure, and it'll be a proxy value added based on FFT 50. Pupils that have performed above FFT 50 obviously will have positive values. Pupils below will have negative. We'll aggregate that because obviously FFT estimates take into account the prior attainment of the pupils. So it will give you a view of what progress looks like in that subject for you as a school, comparing to all the other schools that take those subjects with similar ability pupils. So it's just to say that that is coming into the subject report over the next couple of weeks and will be available when we get to the results service. As I say, fortnightly updates to the system, which probably feeds nicely into the product roadmap section. So let's outline a few things that that are coming into the system. So right now it's there, it's live, and I know a few of you have been looking at that and just picking up on. There's a regular question that I think has been coming in around not being able to download a file at the moment, and the only reason you can't download a file is because the curriculum hasn't been mapped and the QAM codes haven't been entered. As soon as you've done that, that download button will be enabled and you can start downloading, as I say today. Start downloading. If you've already got that assessment data, you can VLOOKUP it in. And another question asked about, can we copy and paste? And you can copy and paste into the file as well. So assessment data there, current year 11 is what we've started with. Obviously, we know there's a results service coming up, and it was a great opportunity for you to feed the data in this way and get some instant analysis for current year 11. And as well as that, a predicted grade service to get used to the system and have a look at what your data sets might look like with your latest predicted grades for pupils. You can set up that curriculum, you can start uploading data, and you'll get the full reports. And I think you could see there that there were variations of those reports as well. There's the assessment only, and there's the comparison to estimates, and obviously different estimate models that you can use. So that's there straight away. We were really keen to get subject analysis, subject pupil lists, headline analysis, things like Progress 8, with ranks, with significance, and a pupil list as well to see how pupils factored into those figures. August results service, 22nd of August, we'll have that open and ready, uploading your GCSEs and your vocational subjects. There'll be 6 reports. You'll have the headlines, you'll have the subjects, there'll be a subject list. So if you want a subject list that breaks down the attainment and the progress figures for each subject in your school on a one-pager, you'll be able to have that available to view. And if you wanted to print that and share, you'd be able to do that as well. And really importantly, you know, as we've said there, around 1,700, 1,800 schools every year feed data to us on results day or around results day. The sooner you get that data to us, the sooner we hit a threshold, we will calculate and get into the system as soon as we possibly can 2024 FFT nationals and progress based on our own coefficients on that data set. And it's a really strong, robust data set with such a huge amount of schools that submit data to us. Then in September, we'll open it up at the start of September. So you can start with the whole of Key Stage 4, Year 10 and Year 11. And then you can map and add in data for both of those cohorts at the start of the autumn term in September. I mentioned as well that we're looking to get your estimates attached to your subject teaching groups as well. So you get an aggregates based on the pupils that are taking the subjects, not all pupils in the school. Then in November, we'll expand it to Key Stage 3. So you'll be able to get data in there from Year 7 through to Year 11. And working really closely with schools, we know that lots of schools at Key Stage 3 don't use the 9-to-1 grading system. They might use emerging, expected, exceeding. It could be at, above, below. You'll be able to put in your own grading schemas. I've seen a question as well around pluses and minuses, and that will be available in November. Attitude and effort data consistently come up in feedback that schools want to see that attitude information and behaviour information, and we'll open that up so you can record and submit behaviour data to us and look at that alongside the performance data of pupils. Another thing to mention here, attendance. We know how high profile attendance is. We know how attendance impacts performance. We'll be bringing attendance in so you can see that alongside performance and estimates as well. And then in early 2025, assessment data across the whole of secondary schools, including Key Stage 5, which we'll bring into the system. And then we'll work really closely with our assessment partners at GL and HODA to start bringing in some of those standardized tests where we can look at the percentile ranks and we can convert those on to a 9-to-1 scale. So you can track them alongside your estimates and your targets. If you've got your targets in your system, I think Heidi showed you that targets will be available. Cat 4 estimates will be available. They'll be available at the start of the autumn term. They're in progress at the moment. One thing to note, Cat 4 to vocational estimates will also be there for the autumn term. A more detailed roadmap, and this is really for you to take away, but it just covers what I've talked about there around the year groups. Some of the functionality, and Heidi showed you through this, filters, sorting, generation of headlines, analysis by teaching groups, and I've talked about custom grading schemas and attitude data to look at alongside performance. And then the reports, we've talked about the top 4 there. I mentioned the subject list, the one-pager that will give you a view of performance in your school for the subjects you take in comparison to everybody else that's taking those subjects. And obviously when I talk about value added and progress, we'll take into account, the cohorts within your school and those nationally as well. Pupil groups, how do our FSM pupils perform compared to FSM nationally? Same for SEN and the other characteristic groups that you typically see across our range of reports. A MAT list. So if a MAT wants to go in and look at a list of their schools and look at the headline indicators for their schools, we'll have that as well coming into the system in September, if not before that. Comparison I've talked about, estimates is there, nationals are there for 2023, and we'll add in the 2024 as soon as we hit that threshold of schools submitting data. And that's probably going to be on day one. Targets, comparing to targets. If you put targets into the system, your targets tend to be more refined than the estimate. It takes into account what you know about those pupils, what the circumstances are around those pupils. So if you want to compare to targets, that will be there. And I've talked about the Cat 4 to Key Stage 4 estimates as well. We want you to have a go at the system. Feedback to us. Let us know what you think. Obviously, I've talked about we're building this alongside our FFT customers. Tell us the things you want to see in the future. Tell us what's important to you. Tell us what worked well. Tell us what didn't work so well. Please do, use the feedback functionality. Get in touch with us if you want to be part of a steering group. Please do, and I'll put an email address up. Please do get in touch, and we'll reach out. Okay, pricing for the tracking system. So the great news is it's an add-on module within FFT Aspire, and it is free from now until April 2025. So you'll get full access to the system. You'll be able to use it. You'll be able to see the new reports that come into the system, the new key stages that come in, the behavior, the attitude, all of the things I've talked about on the roadmap will be free up until April 2025. After April 2025, it'll be an add-on, a yearly subscription, and it'll be between 600 and 800, and that'll be based on the size of your school, and that's for the additional part of the tracking system. But as I say, it's free until April 2025, so you can use the system, get a feel for the system, see the different case stages come on board, the behavior, the attitude information, and get a real feel for the system as it develops alongside your schools and your multi-academy trusts. Next steps. So if you've been here today, you can go away. These are the things really to be looking at. Map your school curriculum. As I say, we've done the vast majority of that for you. There's been a couple of questions around English, and English was a really interesting one. English, it varies across schools. Some have English literature mapped, but not English language. Some have the opposite, English language, but not lit, and some have both. Where we can identify that it's the same pupils, we've replicated it. So you get it for both English language and English literature. So you can analyze by that, and you can add data by that as well. Set the QAN codes. As soon as you set the QAN codes, that option to download a template will become available. But I'd set all the QAN codes, and that's important for predicted grades, but it's also great preparation for the results service. And then download a results template and copy and paste some data into it, use your VLOOKUPs and get your data into it, do a bit of a sense check, and then you can start bringing that data into the system. Predicted grades now, it's open now. Key Stage 4 results, results day 22nd of August, we'll have that open and ready for then. And then in the autumn term, start using it for year 10 and year 11. And later in the autumn term, it's be rolled out across Key Stage 3 as well. And then generate the headline indicators and analyze your school's performance in minutes. Generate it straight into those reports, get your headlines, get your progress rate, see your percentile ranks, see if there's anything statistically significant. And then on the results day and around that time, once we've hit our threshold, we'll give you the 2024 FFT Nationals based on that really strong 1,700, 1,800 schools that consistently use the service each year. There's a website that is available now. There's a QR code there, and there's the link to the website. So if you wanted to have a look, get a bit more information around what you've seen today, the demo from Heidi, and some of the information that I've talked you through, then please do have a look at the website.
Just one final question that's popped up. There will indeed be a form of a training guide or a training video which looks at curriculum mapping in a lot more detail than Craig and I were able to cover this morning. And if there is sufficient interest, I am sure I can be persuaded to run a future webinar on looking at the reports themselves, especially once we get all of that Key Stage 4 data in. So just encourage you, get that data in so we can hit that threshold and send out the analysis via Aspire Pupil Tracking with that 2024 national figure. I know that's something all schools want as soon as possible. Okay, thanks again, everyone, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.